Hello, thank you for joining us today. We've got a great workshop ahead for you. Today we're going to be focusing on all the fun new options for the NITRO user interface. I'm Krista White, by the way. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Crow Canyon, and I'm joined today by James Restivo, our VP of Product Development. And we're excited to dive in and show you all the fun new things that you can do. A quick couple housekeeping things before we get started. If you do have any questions, go ahead and use that question box. Don't be shy. We are here to answer your questions. And there will be a recording of this. So we'll add that to our YouTube channel and also add it to our .help site. So if you have any questions, you want to go back and read it or watch it again later, it'll be here for you. And then if you do have any super in-depth questions that you'd like to address one-on-one, we're here for you with that as well. So without further ado, go ahead and turn things over to James.
Thanks, Krista. Appreciate it. Welcome everyone to the workshop today. Hope you get some good, get some good options for how you can manage the UI of your help desk or NITRO web parts. Just kind of give you a quick high-level overview of what we're going to cover today. We've got the tiles and dials web part that we're going to take a look at, some of the options you have with rounding corners and making things as circles with captions. There's a lot of cool things you can do there. So I'll kind of walk through what that looks like, what the settings options are, what they do, how that appears on your site. And then I want to show you a lot of the reporting options we've added for the UI change and how the reports are shown on a page. It's a lot of really great stuff. Gives you a lot of options for making the system or a little bit lighter, maybe a little more flexible, match the colors to your particular company. Whatever you need to do with the UI to make it look the way you want it to look, we want to give you that flexibility, because that is a big part of user adoption, is to have something look, good. If it looks old, looks out of date, people aren't going to want to use it. If it looks new and fresh and light, it's kind of the zeitgeist, I guess you could say, of the way things are going, then people are more likely to use it. And a lot of this stuff translates well to mobile screen as well, because we have the responsiveness to a lot of our web parts. So if you just pop this open in a mobile browser, it should look pretty nice there too. So I do want to dig into it, and as Krista mentioned, if you have any questions, also feel free to raise your hand if you feel comfortable talking on in the group. I'll unmute you and you can ask your question in the group. But yeah, otherwise go ahead and pop it into that questions box, and we'll get to it either in the flow of things or at the end of it or afterwards if it's a more in-depth question or more specific to your scenario. We might address it with you directly. So with all that being said, you can see right away, I've got this IT Professional Modern 4 page up. This is our IT help desk. As a lot of people have been on these webinars before know, I love to use that because a lot of things are already there as far as content and things created. But the core piece I want to focus on is that tiles and dials web part, and then the reporting elements under it. And you can see we've already kind of configured things a little differently than what you might see out of the box if you're using our help desk. So it's going to already have a little bit different look and feel. And I'll show you how we got there, and I'll show you what the different options are for yourselves to get there and make things look a little nicer, look a little cleaner, maybe a little lighter, change the colors, whatever you need to do. So the first things you'll notice at the top, you have our, the top being here, this, well, it's like 3/4 of the way up the screen, however you want to say it, is our tiles and dials web part, where we have 6 tiles, and you can see we've got some rounded corners. We got a little bit different color scheme going on here. And all this is configurable with the tiles and dials web part, where you can make those things rounded. You could also just leave it as a rectangular and change the colors. You have a lot of different options. We've given you a lot of different things that you can play around with here as far as that look and feel. And you'll see to the reports, we remove like a header, remove the toolbar. We have those options now. Again, makes it lighter, makes it a little cleaner. And I have another page I'll show you, which is going to focus more on the reports, and you'll see that comparison to what you have now or what you may have now, and what it can be like with a different setup going on there. Now, again, a lot of these elements are UI elements, so they're browser specific, so that means we can provide them for the Office 365 and also for on-premises. Some of these newer updates are in the latest couple of rollouts we had for NITRO Studio. I think .8.4 is our latest. And a lot of these got into some of the .79, .878, I think included some of these. I know, again, for our on-prem folks, we're working on an update for that. So if you don't see those options today and you don't have the latest package, we will have that for you within the next couple of weeks, so we can deploy that and get these sites upgraded on your side, and you can use these. If you're on Office 365, you can just go to Nitro Studio page, the Nitro Studio apps page, click the update this site or update multiple sites in your site collection, and you'll see all these new cool things. So we will be having out there, if we don't have it out there already for the on-prem folks, it'll be there soon. Office 365 folks, you should have it already. All right, so let's get into the actual settings here. It looks like we've got a few more people pop on while I was talking. So as Krista mentioned earlier, this will be recorded. So if you want to come back and take a look at it down the line, it's on our YouTube channel. It's out there for you to review. All right, well, let's get into it. So tiles and dials, options for changing the UI elements. So you can directly go a couple different ways to get there. If if you're not familiar how to get into the settings area for tiles and dials, you can edit this page and get to it directly from the page itself. So I'll go ahead and, if you're using our branding, we always have this CCS mode equals 1 to get rid of the branding. Of course, if you also go through Nitro Studio itself, you'll have that tiles and dials web part as one of the options in that listing. So you can do it that way as well. A couple different ways to get there. So I'll just do it this way. I'll just edit this this page and edit this web part. Just got to edit the page, of course, and get into the edit web part settings. And then I can click on this, click here to create new link or modify existing link tiles. I want to modify, so I'm going to do that. And that's going to bring me to the ticket tiles. I happen to know it's the ticket tiles. I can also look back on my screen and see which tiles group I'm looking at here. So if you have a lot of these configurations, you can always click back and see which tiles group you're talking about. And in this case, it's ticket tiles. So I'll get into that. Okay, so on the tile itself, there's things to change the color scheme. So each tile can be colored differently. In this case, we've changed up that color through the body section within that tile itself. You can see we've changed the text hover over color. The text color itself is that bluish color. As far as the background of it, that can be controlled through the settings in the tiles header layout area. So you'll see that you have the option to tiles properties. So this should be new. If you're upgraded Nitro, you'll see that there's this tiles property section, and that's where we're going. One of the areas we're going to focus on is that you can have your tiles as rectangular, but then also round the edges, and that's what we've done over here. So we've gone through. It's marked as rectangular. We've clicked off rounded edges. Once you click that, you're going to get this option to choose the border radius. And the border radius just simply tells the system how much of a curve do you want on that tile. So if I do a bigger number, it's going to be a bigger curve, and you kind of see what it looks like right now. And maybe if I hover over it, it'll be a little more obvious. It's not that much of a curve, but if I go in here and pop this up to like 30, you'll see a difference. And I can actually show this to you through the preview option. I'll do that. You can see it's a much broader curve than what we have going on already. And we can just keep going up. I think there's must be an upper limit to this at some point. Not sure what it is. You see 100 has almost got like an oval kind of appearance to it. So it almost could look like a button that you'd see anywhere else. So you've got that option to make it look, with that kind of this oblong oval type look and feel. I think I might have see if I have a top end here. Where is it? Yeah, 300. Okay, 300 is my top end. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I can see a lot more rounding. Curvature, we still got the straight line at the top and the bottom. So it's not a true circle. We do have another option for that circular element to it. But that gives you the rounded corners, really rounded corners here in this case, but you could round them slightly or round them really a lot. So go back to 10, you'll see that difference again. See, it gives it back to more of a rectangle with a little bit of a curve up there at the top on all four corners. So it kind of just gives it a little cleaner, instead of the sharp edges, you got the little rounded edges that you can play around with. And in some cases, you might want to see what these look like as circles. So we can take a look at that. We do circular. Now you see we don't have a radius option here, and that's because the circular tiles are auto adjusting to the size of the web part. So if you put your web part in a small area, your circles are going to be a little bit smaller. If you put your web part in a bigger area, your circles are going to be bigger. But I'll show you ways that you can control that as well. So let me show you what the circular looks like. And you can see these are pretty big, maybe not quite the way you want it to look. But you notice, look at in between here, there's not that much padding. That's where we're going to make the difference in how big these circles are going to show for you. So if you want to make them smaller overall, even though you have a large screen like this, add more padding. So that's going to add more padding to the sides, it's going to add more padding to the top, and that padding setting is going to be in this horizontal gap area. So vertical gap would come into play if you're between, if you have row of 3 tiles and then another row of 3 tiles. We don't have that here. We just have one horizontal row. So we're going to look at the horizontal gap, and we're going to increase that. So if I put that up to 100 pixels, which is our limit apparently, we can show that tiles preview. And you can see it already gives you a little bit better look and feel. Now the next step in this is, well, okay, that's fine, but you can see, well, unassigned tickets is not looking that great, or inactive for 3 days is not, it's not fitting, it's not looking good. For those, and for all of these, and I'll just do it to a couple in the interest of time, I'll just do it to a couple of these where we can actually pull that header text out of the tile and put it below the tile as a caption. And I'll show you what that looks like. And you see we have this option down here to enable tiles caption. So we're gonna turn that on and see it gives you some options as to where you want to show that caption. I like to have it at the bottom. That's my personal preference, so I'm going to put it there. But you could show it above that circle or the tile, if you have a rectangular tile. So you can show it either above or below. Again, depends on your personal preference, what your team likes to look at. It's either way is fine. We're gonna do bottom, we're gonna do center. I like it being centered. I don't want to justify it to the left or the right. I think center makes the most sense. We can play around with these height, fonts, gaps. If it doesn't look good, we can kind of play around with that. But we need to actually put a caption in each of the tiles as well. So it's not enough that we enable it here. This is great, we got it enabled, but now we got to click back over to our tiles and go to these individually. So let's say unassigned tickets, that one wasn't looking that great. You'll see you have this caption option. Now this caption option that I'm hovering over is not going to be there until you enable the tile captions. But once it's there, you can come over here to header, and that asterisk is still there just as kind of a UI thing. You can actually leave that blank if you have the caption enabled. So you can take out the header text. I just copied it, cut it out of there with a Control X. I'm going to do a Control V into our caption area. So now we have moved it out of the circle into the caption, and it'll show below that circle. I'll hit OK on that, and I'll show that tiles preview. And you see there, in the actual web part, it shouldn't be overridden. It's just in the preview, it's getting a little bit cut off there. But in reality, it'll appear kind of normally. But also you'll see, well, hey, I want to move that icon up a little bit. Well, we're going to move it up for all of them because I think it's a global setting, and that's okay. We'll just move it up a little bit because usually you're not going to have a mix and match like I have here, really just for demo purposes. We're doing it kind of mix and match kind of setup. But we can, we can move that the number more into the middle of that circle. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll come over here to, let me just check. I think it might be in here. Body. It is in here. Okay, great. So it is in the tile itself. We can move it to the middle, and we can actually do that for each of those tiles individually. I'll show you what that looks like. So now you've got this one tile. It's a little bit offset from the rest, but that's okay. As you have this is sort of like your tile that you want to key off of, right? So we can move the open tickets out of here, put it in the caption, take it out of the header, and move this up into the middle. So we can do that for each one of these, and then just have it all looking similar and consistent. So you could do that for each one of those tiles and make it look a little different. If we want to do that, we go over to like open tickets, same thing, take the header out, move it over here, and in the body, we can move that into the middle from the bottom. And so it's really simple to do that. Just go through each one of these, X, Control V, click back over to body, put it in the middle. there. So you keep playing around with that. You can even put it at the top if you want to show one at the top. I'll just do it to this one so you can see what that looks like. And we'll take this out, put this in here, and move this to the top. Just give it a little different look and feel as to what that might look like. So you see it's applied that change to these first four, where I moved it to the caption. It is quite kind of big text, so we could change that back down with the settings that we have under the header and tiles layout section. But you can see this one's moved to the top. Now we can move it to the left, to the right, to the middle, to the bottom. You know, it kind of depends on what you want to see. Usually things look best to me when they're in the center, like center, not, you know, center top, center bottom, but center. This looks better kind of center bottom, but it's just the way you want to see it laid out. And the nice thing about the preview option is that gives you a way to check it out, see how it looks. You know, you can play around with these different settings and say, hey, this one looks better than that one. I don't like the look of that one. You can play around with it and make it look the way you want it to look. As far as the color scheme, you might have noticed that that's an option in a lot of these areas. Is the you know, the background color is determined here. The text color is black. A hover color is white. So when I hover over it, you'll notice that, you know, it changes to white for the header. It goes from black to white. We can change all that here, and so we can play around with those settings. Like, let's for instance say I wanted to have my color scheme is like a darker color, maybe darker bluish, purplish kind of thing, and put it like that. In that case, well, the header is going to matter more for being black. We can leave this as is. But we can change that background color, and then we can also change this color here because that's too similar, I think. And we're going to make that white for the body color, right? So that's going to be the number that we're seeing. This is for the open tickets, so I'll just show you what that looks like. And so it gives you a different look and feel. So we got a little darker color. With that blue, we've changed that font to white instead of this kind of navy blue that's over here. Of course, I can't hover over it because it changes, but you clearly see those differences in that look and feel. So it gives you a way to, you know, make all of them different, make them all the same, you know, make them consistent, keep them light, keep them heavy, whatever makes most sense for your branding, for your UI, and what's going to are your users going to respond to. That's what matters. That's what matters for you. We just want to give you the options and make sure you have the capabilities to make these changes, to make things look the way you want it to look, and to give you the options to play around with that stuff. Now, there's a few more things we could play around with, right? We could go over to tiles header layout and go back to that tiles caption. And you know, I kind of complained about that size of the font. It wasn't that great. 20 seems a little too big. I'm going to pare it down. I'm going to put it to 16 because that's, I think, a little more realistic or reasonable. You see there, kind of makes it a little smaller, makes it look a little nicer. But yeah, just all sorts of options to play around with here. And if you've used these before, kind of play around with them, we could change it so that these are on top of each other. So if, for instance, you want to do 3 columns of 3 instead of 6, we could do that and show you what that looks like. Of course, it makes it bigger. These are really big circles, but the point is you can stack them on top of each other. And when you embed them in the web part, again, it's going to react to the size of that web part. So these circles will be smaller once they're actually on a page. So just some different things that we can play around with there. We can save that and just kind of show you what that looks like. Republish this page. Yeah, they do look pretty big, but that's where that vertical gap could come into play. We could go back into our settings and change that vertical gap, and then they'd be a little bit smaller. But yeah, this is a little bit tough. I mean, again, see, it's like, it's a little tough to see. Well, I can come back in here and make that background a little darker. I can make it smaller. I think when it's a smaller, you know, thing, a rectangle or, you know, one of those oval type setups, it's going to look okay. But for now, yeah, again, yeah, it's just, you can go and play with those settings and make it look good. Yeah, are these things just for the modern SharePoint pages? That's a good question. Yes, these are for our modern UI web parts for tiles and dials. I don't believe, they might work for Classic. Actually, I haven't tried them on Classic. I'll be honest with you, I haven't tried them on Classic. I can check with my dev team on that and we can get back to you, but I believe since we do have it for on-premises as well, Classic is probably supported. Don't quote me on that, I'll double check, but I think Classic would be supported as well. Yeah, since these are like that tiles and dial web part is not specific to the modern UI. It could be if you come over to the tiles and dials web part, you would, if you're in the modern UI, you would add directly to a page just by editing the page and adding that web part. If you want to add it to a classic page, you can do it this way. But since we're able to do that, you have all the same settings. You have all the same options available. So I would venture to say, yes, it would be supported on classic. All right, great, good. Let's see, tiles and I think that kind of covers what I want to cover with the tiles and dials. I'm not sure if there's anything else you guys want to see, but those are really the big UI enhancements we put in there for the tiles and dials piece. We're still going to talk about reports in just a minute, but you know, giving that rectangular look and feel, giving that, or sorry, the rounded rectangle, rounded corners, the circular look and feel, you know, I think it adds a lot of you know, interesting, could add some interesting elements to your SharePoint pages with using tiles and dials and some of these other things. All right, now let's click over to reports. And certainly if you have any questions or want to come back to anything on those tiles and dials, we're open to it. Raise your hand, put it in the questions box, that's fine. But for now, I want to jump over to our reporting UI changes. And as promised, this is kind of what the look and feel is for our reports when they're, you know, kind of standard. But we've built in ways to remove the toolbar, which is this thing here, and remove the header. Of course, if we remove the header, we got to put some text in there to describe what the chart is about, and we have ways to do that. So there's a few UI reporting changes that we've put into place. Again, this would be applicable to modern and classic because this is a common web part that is used in both of those types of sites. So again, we can come in here, we can edit this page, and we can edit each of these web parts and change things around. So in this one, we have our options. You'll see there's some header options. We could change the background color if we want to just leave the header and change it. The text color, of course, we can change as well. This is default, coming from some default settings for the page as to what type of header we're going to see here, kind of a SharePoint thing. But we could change that background color. We can change that text color. I think we need to just put in the hexadecimal number there, whatever it is. So we could do background as all black, and the text color is all white. And truth be told, I didn't play around with this ahead of the webinar, and I should have. I apologize. I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Yeah, there you go. So you got the dark. You see how it's dark with the white text. So you can change the headers themselves if you want to just kind of leave it at that. That's fine. But let's say, you know, again, you want to remove that. It's just, you think it's a little too heavy, just doesn't look right for you. You can go ahead and just hide that header. I mean, you can leave all those settings there and just hide the header entirely. And quickly show you what that looks like. Now your header is gone and you just have your toolbar. But now you also need to see, what is this report about? I don't know, because I got rid of my header. I'm not sure. Well, that we can go to the report settings directly, and there's, we're going to go to average time to resolve by category, which I have over here in our NITRO Reports set up already. And I'll just do a sort, average time to resolve by category. And this chart description. So I'm actually gonna make the chart description the same as the report title. Again, just copy, Control C, Control V, or if you're on Mac, whatever, you know, the Command C, Command V, whatever it is to copy and paste. Did that there. And I'm gonna show that report preview. There it is, now we got it. And to show you what that looks like on the page, I'm gonna save that. And we don't have to do anything else. We can just republish this page, and those settings should come across quite nicely. So there you go, average time to resolve tickets by category. So we get the title in there as the chart description. Now it becomes part of that web part. But we're going to take it a step further, and let's get rid of that toolbar, because now it just kind of floats there and looks a little funky. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of it and publish that. So yeah, and you can see space-wise, you know, kind of the lighter look and feel, the amount of space actually even takes up on the page has changed. So it gives you, you know, another way to present your reports that might look a little different. Another thing here is, well, we don't know what the metric is that we're looking at. Well, we have a way to change that. So let's go add that in. In this case, we actually do want to go back to the report configuration. I'll do it over here. My report popped up to the top since I last edited that one. And I'm going to add in hours. So I don't need any other settings there. I'm just going to type in hours, and that's going to show. There it is. Now it says hours. So it gives us a way to label it. We don't have to have a, you know, corresponding field associated with it to in the report, but you can see it there. You will also notice there is a way to hide that. So we could hide that header if we have it in there. Let's say if we're defining a category, but we don't want to show the term category for whatever reason, I don't know. We can hide that column header. And because maybe you just know intuitively, well, we're already saying it's average time to resolve by category. Why do I need to say it again? You don't have to. You can just remove it. So now it looks even a little different. So if we save that, republish this page again. There. Now, so average time resolved tickets by category. We know these are categories over here, so we don't have to say it again. We did not know these were hours, so we do have to add that in. So just, you know, it gives you a way to add that to your report. So some of the things we can do with these reports, we can hide those headers, hide the headers. We could add the description. But I want to highlight, and I want to leave this one in here to kind of show you the difference and what it looks like from kind of where we were and just kind of how we had to show it to what we've been able to do and make it look a little nicer, a little prettier. We've also done some things with the pie chart, and I want to show you what that looks like. So we got the pie chart here. We've actually got the same pie chart down here, just hiding the header, hiding the toolbar. But there's a couple of changes I want to make, and I'll show you what those look like in the staff load tickets by staff report. So I'll come over here. There are staff load tickets by staff. And when you select the pie chart, I think donut chart has similar options. Any kind of those circular reports give you some options to do some different things. So let me show the report preview, just kind of what the baseline is we're working from. Okay, here's our report. We've got our labels down here at the bottom. We can hover over, we've got some tool tips. That's great, it's all good stuff. But let's say we want to show those value labels in the report itself. Oh, sure, we can do that. So now you've got it listed right next to that wedge of the pie chart right there. But let's take it a step further and say, well, okay, now that legend has become redundant, well, let's go ahead and hide it. There you go. Now you got a more simplified report that looks, you know, it looks good. Everything's labeled. You know where everything is. You know, staff load tickets by staff. So you got all that information in there. But again, let's say you want to get rid of that header, which we did for one of the versions of this web part on the page. Well, we'll put that in the chart description, and now it appears up there at the top. And another interesting option we have here is to render in 2D. And so in some cases, you know, you might want to render that in a 2-dimensional rather than 3-dimensional kind of situation. You'll notice that there's a little bit of shading here where the magenta is a little bit darker on the outer edge and fades to a lighter color. Gives it that 3D sort of look and feel. But let's say you wanted to play around with that, the 2D look and feel, and it gets rid of that gradient. So now you just have a solid color. And in some cases, that 2D web part or 2D pie chart might look a little better for you. One other thing you'll notice is that we could either choose to expand or not expand that first segment. And first, I think it's just by sorting, it's going to come up with the first segment. We could choose to not expand that out. And now I have this report like that. So everything's put together. There's no exploded area. There's just the labels. You still have the tooltip, which is fine, but you got all that, which I think we can remove that tooltip as a matter of fact. But you know, completely different kind of look and feel to the report than what we had before. And you'll see over here if we save this, this is what it looked like before. Refresh this page. And this is what it looks like now. And the reason I brought it down below is you can see some of these things get cut off, but that's based on the size of that web part area. So, we've got a 3-column web part area here in the SharePoint page. Well, you can just put it in its own section. And it's very easy to do that if you wanted to edit this page and add a new section. It's really simple. And then adding that web part takes just a few minutes to do that. I'll just kind of walk you through those steps if you're not already familiar with them. Add the web part. We can add a report because that's that's right there. Edit that and then select your report. And then we got a lot of them in here, but it's that's one of these. I don't was it staff load tickets by staff? There it is. Okay, perfect. That's it. Easy to add that. So you got the, now it's duplicated. I did not hide the, you see I did not hide the toolbar. That's fine. You can leave that there. Again, some different iterations of what it can look like, header and toolbar in a column, just in by itself without the header and toolbar. Here it is with the toolbar without the header. So different ways to kind of play around with it and see what makes sense to you. And then the final thing I want to mention, this is something that's kind of been there for a while, but I don't think people really use it that much or really pay attention to it, is the table. And you can see this table has, suffering a little bit from the look and feel. I don't think it looks that good personally. Kind of a little old style, but a lot of that can be adjusted with the table settings that we've always had. We have deployed a couple things like category priority. I think we had this looking a little differently when we previously, but now it's kind of pointing, okay, here are your categories, here are your priorities, and that's one change that's kind of broad to everyone. But if you wanted to specifically change certain things about this, we could go and do that. And we'll go to NITRO Reports and go to that one. It's open tickets by category and priority table. So I created a new one here. This is it. And we can change this one with the theme. So here's what it looks like on the page. And then we could go down here to our select theme under advanced settings and change it to something else. So I created this table theme options, just kind of show you what's possible with the table. And you see he's got, again, more of a kind of more modern, lighter look and feel, a little more like not so, 1990s, GeoCities kind of style, a little more modern kind of look to it. And a lot of that can be adjusted quite easily. So let's go to save. And remember, it's table theme options. So we're going to go and edit that theme. So go to manage report themes under NITRO Reports. We got our table theme options. And remember, each report can have its own theme to it. Might get a lot to manage, but it does give you a way to make each report unique and look a little different from every other report if you wanted to do that. But you can see here are the table options where we can change the border color, make it from a dark, kind of black to a lighter gray. We can put some padding on that. We can make it a bigger border if we wanted to. But here's where the caption layout is changed. So that's that caption area here at the top. Here's what the original looked like. So this is the caption area. You can see we changed it from this yellow and with a black font to a kind of dark gray with a white font. And that's what that's the new kind of new look. The column, again, same idea. We got this back color of the font, and I just took this light gray color, just copied that. You can triple click and do copy, or select, drag and select all, copy of that. Go down, come down here and just hit V, Control V, add that in. So it keeps your column and row headers consistent and the look and feel. So we've got that going. And then the cell value, I think just black and white makes the most sense for this this particular palette. But certainly, you know, like the tiles and dials and quick link tiles, you can play around with that, try some different things. These apply pretty much right away. So again, I save that report with this table theme options. I save anything I change with the table theme options, and it just automatically applies over here when I do a refresh. And you can see there it is. So there's the different look and feel for that table. You know, again, I could, since it's the same kind of report web part, I could hide that header and hide that toolbar if I so choose, and just have that table on the page. Let me get rid of some of these. Let me get rid of this one. Let's get rid of that one actually. Edit this. Hide header, hide toolbar, republish. There you go. Keeps it lighter, a little more simplistic, a little, you know, not as functional because you don't have the filter web part, the filter piece. You don't have the export to Excel, export to PDF kind of thing. But if you don't need that, you just want to present the information on a page, and typically, you know, you might want to do that on a page where you're presenting to managers or executives. It really gives you a way to make that information look really nice and look, and, you know, hopefully people can wrap their heads around it a little better when it looks nicer. So I think these are really great features that we've added into our tiles and dials and our reports web part to change that look and feel, give it those rounded corners for the tiles, give you options for what that report looks like on the page, so you can keep it lighter, keep it simpler. Of course, we also have the backward compatibility. If you want to leave it the way it is, that's fine. You're not forced to change it. You don't have to do any of this stuff. None of it's really functionality related. Really, it's about UI, which, like I mentioned earlier, is driving towards user adoption. If it doesn't look nice, people aren't going to want to use it. If it doesn't look like the modern things that they're using all day, every day with your, you know, Amazon, Facebook, you know, big ticket items, it becomes like, oh, it's old and outdated. But this gives you a way to make it look modern, lighter, across different elements of your Nitro web parts. So with that, I want to see if there's any other questions or anything else anyone wants to dig into from a UI perspective, or anything else Nitro related that anyone's interested in having discussion about. Certainly, you know, pop it into the questions box, raise your hand. We're here. You got us for a little while longer if you want. So let's give it a minute for anyone to what do you think, Krista? What do you think about these new changes? Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot there. You might be on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was talking to myself about how great they are. Well, I think they're great. I personally, I think it's I have a lot of fun with this kind of stuff. I think this is a really great upgrade for people to be able to go in and kind of customize things, you know, to your own organization, help kind of update that look and feel like you were saying. I know it's, you know, some of the things they come out with are really like heavy lifters in terms of the functionality. And I know that this is just the looks, but a little bit of good looks can go a long way when it comes to this kind of thing. Just like you were saying with adaptability, you know, if you polish it up and update that interface to, you know, your organization's look and feel, I think that's a great way to get people, you know, more comfortable with it and adopting it a little bit more readily.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly right. Yeah, that's a big part of it. User adoption, big part of UI, what UI is all about. But yeah, you know, if you're finding anything you want to address from a UI perspective or user adoption perspective, we're happy to take those comments and feedback. But you know, I think with that, if no one has any additional questions, we'll go ahead and give you back the rest of your time, the rest of your hour. I do appreciate you spending this time with us to talk about these new UI features that we have. And hopefully you can take what you've learned today and go and apply it to your site, to your web parts, and start changing around that look and feel and make it look the way you need it to look for your particular environment, for your particular users, and go from there. So again, yeah, appreciate everyone being on the call, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot, James.
All right, thanks, Krista. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.